Oh, it's been so long since I made a video. Um, I would try to make one. I'm gonna commit to making one once a week, but at least for right now, I'm gonna do something that's very accessible to do, which is rate cards, which I'm sure people have done this before, but I'm gonna try to rate everything from the first set, not the monsters, just the heroes and constructs you can buy. Now, a few rules to how I rate things. I will be rating things overall, so not necessarily a two-player game, three-player game, four-player game. If you're on attack, if it's in the game, it's just gonna kind of be an all-encompassing rating. Is what I'm gonna try to give it. Second thing, I'm gonna rate stuff either one star, two, three, four, or five. I'm gonna try not to do a half if it seems like I'm kind of wavering in between, I'm gonna uh just try to pick like if it's a 4.5, I'm gonna pick either like a 4 or 5. I'm not gonna try to have anything in the middle. I haven't looked at any of this stuff ahead of time, so I haven't already given anything a rating. So this is just something to kind of get me back in the swing of things while I'm trying to figure out the best way to display some of the things that I want to talk about because I have a pretty long list of things that I would want to talk about, but the problem is you have to have them happen. So like I can record it in real life, but then it kind of makes the game a little less genuine. It's like I just stacked the deck. So we're gonna put on the whole reading glasses, and then we're gonna start off with enlighten. Okay, our initiate, and I will say the effect for people that's just just listening in the background. So our initiate, it costs one to buy, and its effect is it draws one card. So not good, not bad. It cycles. This card is actually like card's probably like a three. It doesn't improve your deck. It doesn't make your deck worse either. It's kind of like a free point. Now there are some card combinations you can do with it. You can do Druid of the Stone Circle in this set, so you can put a Mystic or Heavy to the top, or another card that's three or less, and then draw with it. So combo potential isn't very high in this set. I mean, it can be once you add other things to it. Cetra, the one that's a seven that puts something to the top, you can draw it immediately, but just kind of overall as a card, it's about a three. All right, Aura Templar costs four to buy, and it kills a monster that's four or less. And also, yes, it does kill a cultist for people that are new to the game because it doesn't say center row. That means you can kill anything from anywhere. So at least you're getting some kind of kill from it. Now, how good is this card? Let's hop over to the monsters real quick. So, old buddy cultist, no one wants to hit him. He's just there. But let's look at some good cards that we could hit with it. So, Corrosive Widow that can destroy a construct. So it's four of those. Feats, three of those. It can banish a card in the center row. Mistake of Creation, arguably the best four kill monster in the game. Arguably, it's probably like two that's in kind of close contention with it. We may like visit that if I like the format of this, but so it's four of those. Samuel Trickster, one of the easily one of the worst monsters. But it's the first set, so it's kind of understandable. So we got four, 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 and a feet. So we got 15, 18 targets. So there's plenty of things you can hit with the Aura Templar. If I'm not going on an attack route, it's enough attack where I feel like I don't necessarily have to go in attacking strategy. I don't have to buy the heavies or the demon slayer or anything like that. This could be enough attack to kind of stifle whatever my opponent's doing, and it gives you three on at the end of the game, which is kind of higher than average. By average, we normally go by how many points you get from buying what's readily available. So just say like heavy infantries, you can buy two heavy infantries for four, That gets you 2 honor at the end of the game. This gets you 3. So it's kind of +1 to what's common in terms of what you get at the end of the game. So our Templar, just like its cost, we're going to give it a 4. Ascetic of the Litless Eye costs 5. It draws 2 cards, and it gives you 2 honor at the end of the game. So in terms of the honor value, that's not as strong, but that plays a very small part into ratings, I feel, because otherwise all the mechanic constructs are going to be through the roof just because their honor equal to whatever you're buying. But Ascetic of the Litless Eye, you can buy it first shuffle. What I mean by first shuffle is one of your first 2 turns of the game. So if you open with 5 or you open with 3, you know that, on your second turn, you're going to have 5. So to have this in the deck pretty quickly, and it's a +1. So if your hand is 5 cards and you're holding this, you best have a 6-card hand. So it is a very good card. Is it a 5? It's not this is one of those wavering things because this is probably a 4.5, but now we're going to give it a 5. Drawing is fantastic. It's not too expensive. You can buy it with things that are already included in your starter deck. You can just get 5 Apprentice. So this card is almost never out of the possibility that you can buy it and use it. Master Dartha, 7 to buy. Draws you 3 cards and gives you 3 at the end of the game. So this is a nice parallel between Ascetic of the Litless Eye and Master Dartha. Dartha in itself, he's going to get a 4. Now, how can this thing get a 5 and this card get a 4 and it has a better effect? Mainly because if when it comes to the possibility that you buy it, typically you're going to have to invest in 2 cards that give you 1 additional room per turn. So just say like if you buy a Mystic turn 1 and a Mystic turn 2, yeah, now you have the potential to have 7 on, for the rest of the game. You can get 3 Apprentice and 2 Mystics. But depending on the strategy you go, that's not always what's readily available. And this is kind of the preface how I'll, for the most part, be rating a lot of these cards. Anything that's above a 5 has a very small chance of actually getting a 5 rating just because its accessibility, depending on the strategy you go, might warrant it a little too hard to accomplish. I mean, you can gun after this card, but just of itself, in all situations, I'm going to give it a 4. Isaiah the Peerless. So Isaiah is the big brother of our Templar. It costs 6 to buy, and it kills a monster that's 6 or less. Also the Cultist, which, kind of sad face if you have to kill the Cultist with Isaiah. Now, looking back at the monsters, at least in the original set, it's only 1 monster you cannot kill with this. And that's the one we're looking at right now, Avatar the Fallen. Everything else, Earth Tyrant, fantastic kill. Absolutely fantastic kill. It's almost put in the same regards as Mistake of Creation being as one of the best monsters to kill of that number. So if a 6 attack card, it's pretty high up there. I don't want to say it's top 3, but it's a decent chance to be in. It's a decent chance to be in top 3. Sea Tyrant, which is good to reset an opponent's kind of construct strategy, because some people are pretty reliant on that. So if you reset everything, and especially if they just shuffled their deck and it's going to be maybe never by the time they draw everything back, that's a pretty powerful card. Wind Tyrant makes it easier to buy different things. And the Zeron Duke of Lies, which is a very hard to accomplish combat card, because more often than not, even in the late game, the card you get is a strong chance you aren't getting a good enough card. It's a very strong chance you're not getting a good enough card. But, it opens the possibility to kill anything besides Avatar. It's a 6, so its accessibility is a little bit easier than Master Dartha. If you have this card, you absolutely do not need to have any attacking strategy whatsoever. Templar, still a possibility, because if I'm construct heavy, I don't have a means of taking out Sea Tyrant unless I get something that banishes, which, Mafeet, Mistake of Creation, those are monsters that, if they came up, could, but it's also good to just be able to kill it. So Zaya the Peerless accomplishes that. This breaks the rule that I just said about cards that's worth more than a 5 actually getting a 5 rating, but Zaya the Peerless is going to get that 5 rating. All right, Seer of the Fort Path. It's a 2-cost card. Draw a card. You may banish a card in the center row. This card, and any card like it, in a 2-player game, insta-5. Instantly a 5. The ability to control what my opponent can do, opening up different possibilities on what to buy is kind of like the slight benefit for the card, but it's primarily, oh, you would greatly benefit from having this or getting this kill. Let me wipe it off the board. I don't have to wait for a certain monster to hit the center row. I can just, boop, that card is gone, with the exception of Avatar. But, there's normally a card like every other set that you can't get rid of. But it's a very, very good control card. 5 out of 5. Temple Librarian. It's a 2-cost card. Discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. Now this cycles. It's cheap. Get to see 2 additional cards in your deck. I mean, it doesn't have any downsides. It's also a 5 out of 5. Oh man, I'm gonna keep going with this, but like I'm giving things 5, so I'm sure like that'll probably change somewhat soon. So yeah, we'll just keep going with this format for right now. Twofold the Scar. Copy the effect of a hero played this turn. My goodness. I'm actually not going to give this card a 5 because in and of itself, it's not necessarily a good card. It could be an apprentice. It could be a militia. Could be a druid of the stone circle. Like it's a good chance it is going to be something that's beneficial, but there are a lot of cards I feel that can outclass how good this can be. Like it has a high ceiling, but it kind of has a middling ceiling as well. So because of that, we're going to give it a 4. 4 stars out of 5. Next thing, the All-Seeing Eye. Cost 6, Enlightened Construct. Once per turn, you may draw a card. This card is a 5 out of 5. Cards that draw are fantastic because they cycle and they typically have an additional effect, which is always good. You just basically get that effect for free. But constructs stay in play. Yes, there are a decent means of how to get rid of constructs this set. There's 4 Corrosive Widows. That's kind of on the high end of like single construct removal for a set. Because you have 2 mass removal in Sea Tyrant, and you have 4 your opponent decides removal in Corrosive Widow. But this card is 5 out of 5. Ooh, Tablet of Time's Dawn. We're going to give this a 3. Why is it a 3? This is a very, very middle of the road card. Now, I could just say I give this card a 3 because it is very good if you're going second, and it's I if you're going first. Because, to go second, to be able to hold it and basically have a very strong double up of the last turn. But it also has the potential to get destroyed. Now, I mean, of course, any construct can get destroyed. The one we just looked at, it can get destroyed too. But while it's on the board, it's drawing a card every turn. Or Shadow Star is giving you an attack every turn. This is sitting there. This is potential liability where you're gonna have to buy, like, if you have this card or you're trying to go after this card, you need to have another construct as a buffer for something else for Corrosive Widow to get rid of instead of just your Tablet of Times Dawn. Like, it's a bad play. I mean, get you a Burial Mark. Burial Mark's one of the best, like, destruction fodders you can get, because it's going to blow itself up and it's basically going to reuse this effect when you draw it back. You're not going to be losing a card, but it has some potential to do some pretty crazy stuff in the late game. Early game is typically not worth playing, and in the mid game is it's kind of wavering. So like its potential is kind of on an upward slope the later the game goes. So if you were going first and you had 5 and this was on the board, or Ascetic of the Litless Eye was on the board, like, I doubt you get Tablet of Times Dawn. So we're giving it a 3. Potential 3 isn't bad. Three's in the middle. But Tablet of Times Dawn, that's where we're gonna put it at right now. All right, we're gonna go down to the life bounds. So Cetra Weaver of Stars is a 7-cost card. Acquire a hero without paying its cost. Place it on top of your deck. This will get a 4. It's going to get a 4 because that's how many points it gives you at the end of the game. All right, no, that's a terrible reason. All right, it's going to get a 4 because what it can do is very good. We talked about Master Dartha, fantastic card. Talked about Azaya, fantastic card. Ascetic of the Litless Eye. There's a few other ones, but I kind of wait until we get to that point. I want to kind of muddle up a bunch of cards that, if you're a newer player, you haven't seen yet. So there's a lot of good cards that can go to the top, but the same reason that we didn't give Dartha a 5, or I don't think we gave Dartha a 5. Yeah, the same reason we didn't give Dartha a 5 is because it's a 7-cost card. The accessibility is, kind of rough. We start off with 2 malicious. We start off with what we call breaks, which is if you're gonna be looking to buy something that is going to be very beneficial to your deck, the malicious are going to get in the way. I mean, there's other cards you can just avoid buying that won't get in the way, but you're always going to have those 2 malicious. 7's a lot to ask for at times. So if the accessibility was a little bit lower, I mean, if it was a 6, it'd be broken. It would be a 5, but it's appropriately placed at a 7. It's good card design, so it is a 4 out of 5. Druid of the Stone Circle is a 4-cost card. You can acquire a hero that costs 3 or less without paying its cost. Place it on top of your deck. I notice I haven't really been highlighting how many points something gives you at the end of the game. I only really highlight it when it's above the heavy cost, above the heavy reward, I should say. So instead of being 4 for 2, it's 4 for 3. So in game, gets you a little bit more honor. But the cards you can put to the top, it's a decent amount. It's a decent amount of pretty good cards you can put to the top. The downside being, more often than not, if you have this card in your hand, you effectively have a 4-card hand. You have a card that can prep for your next hand, sure, or you have a card that you can put something on top. Let's say you play our Initiate, you can draw that card. Yeah, you still got the ability to use whatever card you place on top right away. But even after you draw that card, still had a 4-card hand. Because playing Druid is a -1. -1, you'll probably hear me say that a little bit more throughout things that I explain or gameplay videos. But a -1 basically means once you play this card, it did not have an immediate effect on the game, and it did not replace itself. Our Initiate, for instance, when you play it, it does not have... Well, I guess it does. Our Initiate does have an immediate effect on the game because you're drawing a card right away, but you're playing a card that basically doesn't do anything for you without the assistance of something else. So that's kind of what we mean by -1. So Druid of the Stone Circle It's gonna get a whopping 2 out of 5. It needs help. Typically, the threshold to really good cards in the set, really good cards, I would say game altering, status changing cards are things that are 4. We haven't really hit a lot of those 4 stuff yet. We talked about Twofold Scar. We talked about Temple Ascar, and some smaller guys, but a lot of the good gracious cards are a 4. So we're gonna give this a 2 for right now. And maybe once we get to the end, you'll see why I didn't rate it as high when you see the star ratings I give some of these other cards. All right, Flytrap Witch, 5-cost card, gain 2 honor, draw a card. This card is a 5. It's a 5 because 1 is cost, is easily attainable. It gives you 2 honor, and it replaces itself. Let's say if you got this somewhat in the early game and you played it. Let's be modest. Let's say you played it 3 times. So you played it 3 times. And each of those 3 times you played it, you got 2 honor, and it basically replaced itself since you're drawing a card. Even if the card you got was complete crap and did not better your position in the game at all, it didn't help you buy anything you couldn't buy, it didn't help you kill anything you couldn't kill, it's still an 8-point card. You played it 3 times, so you got 2 honor apiece. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, and it gives you 2 at the end of the game. So it didn't clunk up your deck. It just basically said gain 8 honor. And that's in the worst circumstance. Well, I guess the worst circumstance is late game. This typically isn't really a late game card. Late game, yeah, I mean, if you play it once, it's okay. If you play it anything more than once, it is phenomenal. Very, very good card. We're going to give this a 5 out of 5. Land Talker, it's a 6-cost card, and it gives you 3 rune when you play it. This is a very fair card, and fair cards get a 3 out of 5. It's out of the threshold of stuff that you can normally buy. A Mystic costs 3 to purchase, and it gives you 2 rune. This is double that amount, and it gives you 3. Now, it is appropriately priced, but there's no unfairness to it. It's just a decent card. I wouldn't even say good. Good is like a 4 out of 5. This is a decent card. All right, now we get to one that I really, really have a hard time to put a number on this, or to put a star rating to it. So Lifebound Initiate, it's a 1-cost card, gives you 1 rune, and it gives you, yeah, I was making sure I was still recording, because if I wouldn't, oh man. So it gives you 1 rune, and it gives you 1 honor. So if you buy this in the early game, yeah, you kind of buying an apprentice, and you're buying something that gives you 1 honor. It seems bad. I mean, you wouldn't think a 1-cost card deserves any like high rating, and in this case, I won't. I am gonna give it a 3. Because in the same vein of Flytrap Witch, seeing it a little bit often, like, yeah, you're getting this honor, but you basically are getting you're drawing an apprentice every time. So it's actually kind of between a 2 and a 3. And we're gonna give it I'm actually gonna give it a 2. I thought about giving it a 3. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 2. It has to be purchased very early in the game where you can comfortably see it probably 4 to 5 times for it to hit that range of being a 3. But anything outside of that is kind of a 2. Mid game, you don't want to have a card in your deck that you bought that says game 1. Just game 1 rune, not draw a card, not do anything else cool with it. I mean, 1 honor is okay. 1 honor in the early game is fine. If you're playing this on turn 3, turn 4, that's fine. If you're playing this turn 8, turn 9, not as good of a card. So, 2 out of 5. Runic Lycanthrope. Gives a 3 cost card. It gives you 2 rune when you play it. And if you have played another Lifebound hero this turn, gain 2 attack. To people that have played other sets, if you have played another Lifebound hero this turn, not Unite, not you can play this first and then play a Lifebound, nothing happens at that point. You have to play it first. This is like, I think, the only card in existence that's Lifebound that kind of had Unite before it became Unite. So you got to do that. So it's better than a Mystic. It is strictly better than a Mystic. Mystic costs 3, gives you 2 rune. This also costs 3 and gives 2 rune, and it's a Lifebound, which helps. In some cases, you'll see a little bit later. And it has the potential to give you 2 attack. Mystic is a 3 out of 3. Mystic is a 3-star card. So, Runic, with all that upside of being a 3-cost card that could give you 2/2, we're going to give that a 4. 4 stars out of 5. Wolf Shaman, say 3-cost card, and it gives you 1 rune, and you draw a card. This card is a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. It's cheap. It cycles. So when you play the card, you're going to get another card anyway. This isn't going to lose your card like we're talking about Druid of the Stone Circle earlier. So just say, like, if you have a hand of 5, you play that, you go back to a hand of 5, but you also have this 1 rune that's floating that you can use. So, I mean, that's a pretty powerful effect. In fact, we're going to upgrade that to a 5. It's a 5 out of 5. Late game, it's not a good card. I mean, most of these cards, like, late game, unless it gives you a lot of honor at the end of the game, or just has a stupidly good effect if you happen to see it once, would it be good in the late game? But early game, fantastic. Mid game, fantastic. Late game, a little but it never hurts the deck because you're always cycling. Cards that cycle are always good. 5 out of 5. Snapdragon costs 5 to buy, and once per turn you can gain 1 rune. And the first time you play a Lifebound hero this turn, each turn you gain 1 honor. Snapdragon, which is a whopping 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Of course, it's 5 or less, which is always good. It stays in play. Constructs, I'm a little bit biased towards. Yes, they have the potential to be destroyed, and then you have to redraw them. So you're missing that effect. And when you draw it, you're typically drawing a card that's not that good. So, like, if the first time you're drawing Snapdragon, it is a glorified apprentice if it's by itself, or it's a Lifebound initiate if you happen to have another Lifebound already. So the first time you draw it, it's going to be shit. But every other time after that, 1 free buy. That's pretty good. We're gonna give it a 4 because there are some 5s and even some 4s. Wink, 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 wink. That we would take over this, but very, very strong card. Drazel Staff. I'm assuming it's Drazel because YGG doesn't make a damn sound. Cost 4 to buy. Once per turn, you get 1 attack. And once per turn, you can spend 4 rune to gain 3 honor. This card, really want to give this a 5. Really, really want to give this a 5. But we're going to give it a 4. We're going to try to make 5 a little bit more exclusive. We're going to give it a 4. Gives you 1 attack per turn. That doesn't seem like much, but we start off with 2 militias. If we haven't got rid of those 2 militias and we don't draw them together, we basically have a card that's kind of dead unless it pairs with any other attack that we've bought so far in our deck. Drazel Staff changes that. There's another card, 2 other cards later on that kind of have that same effect of basically when you draw a militia, you now gain 1 honor. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if it can happen twice, because there's 2 militias in the deck, and it's out several turns, that can be 7, 8, 9, 10 honor by itself, just pairing this one thing. Not any additional kills, but just the threshold to now kill the cultist. I feel like those effects are a little bit underrated. So anything that's going to have 1 attack, spoilers, I'm instantly going to give it a 4. At least a 4, because it's kind of like one of these sleeper cards that kind of gain honor. Even though there may be better things on the board, like a card this early is basically saying like gain 8 to 10 honor throughout the game. But this second effect, all that second effect, it's going to be a separate video that's going to talk about playing rush, which I call playing rush is when you empty the honor pool as fast as you can. One way to do it is with attack, because you can attack monsters, you can attack the cultists. Attacking the cultists is a little bit harder to do at times. It's kind of the fallback strategy when the very beefy monsters are no longer in the center row. But cards like strictly lifebound cards are really the only ones that can just gain honor independently of doing anything else. You don't have to have a certain condition on the board. It doesn't have to be a particular monster that comes out. It's just oh, I have 4 rune. Now I can take the honor. I basically speed up the game by making the amount of turns you'll see your deck a lot shorter. Very, very strong potential. If it was anything I would want to give a 4.5, it would be this. But we got to keep that 5 out of 5 star rating sacred. So we're gonna say that this one's a 4. All right, so we are halfway through. Oh man, I feel like I've been talking like 20-ish, 30-ish minutes. We gotta go ahead and hammer out the rest of these. Mechana's gonna be pretty short though. So Mechana coming up. Avatar Golem, my absolute favorite card in this set. It's not even that good. It really isn't. It's a 4-cost card. It gains you 2 attack, and you gain 1 honor for each faction among constructs you control. And it lists the 4 factions. So basically, Enlightened, Mechana, Lifebound, Void. So the key to this card, you don't buy it first. You kind of pick up a construct. Pick up one of a different type. So now that you got 2, your opponent can either hate buy, which is, basically counter pick. I mean, they could get the card, they can see what you're doing, and they can get the card, which they basically just spent double the value for a heavy infantry. Because basically what it is by itself is a heavy infantry. Or now whenever you play this card, 2 attack, 2 honor. That's pretty damn good. So if your opponent buys it, it's a good thing, because if they don't have the potential to gain the honor, they just probably bought a somewhat substandard card. But if you get it, also good. It's a nice it's a nice trap card. If there were trap cards in Ascension, Avatar Golem would be one of those trap cards. As you see, I am a little bit biased, but I also have to be realistic. This is a 3. This is a 3 for those reasons. If there are no constructs, if this is mid game, this is early game, if you don't really have any constructs, this card is trash. Could be better, but it is trash. It has the potential to do some stuff. Typically, things that's 3-star, I'll put this as potential. It got potential. And in case anyone's wondering the reason, like the background behind me keeps changing, I have somewhat trouble just kind of sitting down and looking at a screen. I just kind of walk around my apartment, so it'll get bright while I'm over here, and then it'll probably get a little bit dark, and then it'll get a little bit light again because I'm by the window. So I just figure I'd point that out, 20-ish minutes after the video started. But Avatar Golem, we're gonna give it a 3. Got to put our bias rating aside, because I really want to give this like a 5. Because like against people that really play this set a lot, it's a trap that they have to address. It's like, I have to clear this card, or there's a snowball that's gonna get out of control. All right, next up, Core, the Ferromancer. Costs 3 to buy, gives you 2 attack, and if you control 2 more constructs, you can draw a card. Now, better than average value. It's a 3-cost card that gives you 2 at the end of the game. If we buy what's readily available, the Mystic only gets us 1, so that kind of comes in a premium when it comes to the amount of honor you can get at the end of the game. But the effect, it's a heavy. It's a heavy. Do you buy it first? Nah, you don't buy it first. If you don't have any constructs, I still don't think you buy it. Do you buy it while you have 1 construct? Yes, you do. Because if our opponent's paying attention, it kind of falls in the same little trap as Avatar Golem. Is, okay, they already have something established. I either can counterpick, or I can let them buy a second construct. So any constructs that come out in the future, your opponent feels like they're going to have to address it if they want to stop the free card that you're going to be getting. Or any card that you get, some of these mechanisms that's going to be coming up, they also become better cards as well. So Core kind of falls into the same vein as the Avatar Golem. It's still a solid 3. It's kind of more of like a 3.5 because it gives you, some would argue drawing a card is better than, drawing a card can be better than 2 honor, or 1 honor if you only have 1 construct. In the sake of like Avatar Golem, is cheaper than Avatar Golem. It gives you more points at the end of the game for the cost. So it's really like a 3.5, but I can't say this is a 4 because it's like the Ascension guys have to have the cards fall the right way for an experienced player to kind of let this or Avatar Golem happen. So we're going to put that as a 3. Oh. Strong candidate for top 3 worst cards in the set. Maybe automatic. It could be automatic. It could be, this is easily one. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna revisit this at the very end, but it's top 3 worst cards in the set. Mechana Initiate. It is a 1-cost card to buy. It can either give you 1 rune or 1 attack. So you can either get an apprentice or you can get a militia. This card, almost under any circumstances, you don't want to buy. What's the circumstance you do want to buy it? All right, I got 7 attack. I got one buy. Man, I don't have any monsters out in the center row. Oh, there's a Mechan Initiate. Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy this terrible card in the hopes I can get a good monster to come down. That's kind of it. Early game, it's not improving your ceiling. Ceiling is something else I have to talk about. Ceiling is basically the highest potential of what your deck can do. So just say at the start of the game you have 8 apprentice and 2 militia. The ceiling, meaning like the highest thing that you can purchase, is a 5. You have to get 5 apprentice. The strongest thing you can kill is a cultist, which means you have to get the 2 militias together. If you buy heavy infantry, your ceiling potential goes up to 4. Same way as if you buy a mystic, your ceiling potential goes up to 6 because you can get mystic and 4 apprentices. I kind of touch on that, in another video. But making an initiate does not improve either one of these ceilings. Well, it can improve the attack, but not in a way that's substantial. Being able to kill 3 attack cards in this set isn't a big jump. Being able to buy 6 cost cards in this set instead of 5, or to be able to buy the 5 cost cards more frequently because you're not having to get exactly 5 apprentices. Very, very game changing. Very game changing. Making an initiate, it's a 1. I mean, I could have just said it was a 1, but I have to give a reason why something is so low. I want to just say 1 and then skip, but it is a 1 out of 5. It is not pure garbage, but it's close to being pure garbage. So close. If it was out in the sun a little bit longer, it would be pure garbage. All right. Reactor Monk. 4 cost card, gain 2 rune. You may pay 1 less rune the next time you acquire a construct this turn. This card is at 3.5. We can't have that. Can't have the 3.5. So it is a mystic when there's no constructs involved. It's a mystic. And it's a mystic that costs more. It's a mystic that costs 1 additional. Now, it's also a Mechana. But in this set, there really isn't any benefit to having Mechana as a tag when it comes to a hero. It is if it's a construct. If it's a construct, you can use some cards that's coming up. You can get a reduced cost on it. But just it being a Mechana hero makes no difference. It could be plain, and it would not make a difference. But the 3 to get some very good cards in this set, especially since I kind of prefaced earlier, anything that's going to give you 1 attack, I'm going to rate pretty high because of the militia pair. The militia pair to be able to kill a cultist is going to get rated higher. It's a 3.5, but we're going to round it up to a 4. We're going to round it up to a 4 because there's a decent amount of those 1 attack constructs. It's kind of, I think it may be more in this set than any other set. And I'm trying to not be as biased, but that does play a pretty big factor into why it's going to get the nod, the round up to a 4 instead of the round down to a 3. So solid card, lots of choices. And more often than not, I'd probably say like around 50-50, it is going to be like a construct that you can buy. I mean, they aren't hard to come by. It's going to be something you can buy. Burial Mark. 3 cost card, Mechana construct. Once per turn, you may put a Mechana construct. All right. Burial Mark 2. 3 cost card, Mechana construct. Once per turn, when you put a Mechana construct into play, including this one, draw a card. Now, I prefaced this earlier when I talked about having fodder for Corrosive Widow. Corrosive Widow says when you destroy a monster, you must get rid of one of the constructs you have. Now, if I get rid of Snapdragon, whenever I draw Snapdragon, I just drew an apprentice. Like, that sucked. But if I destroy Burial Mark, it doesn't even matter because a lot of times once Burial Mark's in play, if it's the only mechanism you have, it's not going to do anything anyway. So blowing it up didn't really do anything because when I redraw it, I can play another card. But for all the other mechanisms that's in the set, Burial Mark instantly makes them better because when before this card would come into play and not really have an effect, now it's going to draw you a card. And it's a 3. We're not going to address the cost that you get at the end of the game because with all mechanisms, that's the same. It'd just be redundant. Burial Mark is going to get a solid 4 out of 5. All right, Grand Design. Once per turn, Grand Design is a 4-cost card. Once per turn, you may gain 2 room, but you may only spend it to acquire Mechanic Constructs. This card is also a 4. The 2-cost reduction is strong. The amount of mechanisms that you can use it for, it's a decent amount. There's only one card that can change the ability for what you can actually use the reduction for, and it's another Mechana construct. If there were more ways to make any construct a Mechana, its value would probably go up a little bit, but probably still not enough for it to be a 5. I mean, it's a solid card. It's a high cost. It has a pretty substantial effect. And I said we weren't going to mention it, but it gets you 6 points at the end of the game. I mean, that's solid. That's solid. And it's a construct. Stays in play. 4 out of 5. Solid stuff. Ooh, Hedron Cannon. It is an 8-cost card. Once per turn, you may gain 1 power for each mechanic you control. Now, by itself, 8-cost card to give you 1 attack. We got 3-cost cards to do that. Shadow Star give you 1 attack, and it's a 3-cost card. This is an 8, but the potential's high. The potential's really, really high. It's not likely, but the ceiling's high. Cost at the end of the game, obviously, Mechana. But what do we rate this, though? I mean, you don't gun after this card. Well, I mean, you do gun after it just because of the cost, but you don't gun after it for its effect. Because in a lot of cases, it's probably going to average in terms of 2 attack, maybe 3. 2 to 3 is kind of normally what you'll see for it. Hedron Cannon, we're going to give it a 3. And it's a 3 out of 5. Is decent. Could be crappy. Could be good. I mean, if I had 8, and let's say if it was early game, if I had 8, would I get a Cetra? Would I get Dartha? Would I get Hedron Cannon? I think if in most situations, if you had to rate those 1, 2, and 3, like first, second, and third, Hedron Cannon's 3rd. There's another card that's a 7-cost card that would also beat this out. So for its price, is actually not very appealing unless it's the late game. We put that in decent territory. 3 out of 5. All right. Hedron Link Device. 7-cost card. You may treat all constructs as Mechana constructs. And of course, it itself is a Mechana construct. So when does that come into play? We're going to combine some reviews, and we're going to also look at Rocket Courier, which is a 4-cost card. And once per turn, when you acquire Mechana construct, you may put it directly into play. So Hedron Link Cannon will allow you to, 1, combine with Rocket Courier to put any construct directly in play, and 2, make any construct you control Mechana, so Hedron Cannon can get a boost. By itself, trash. With either one of these, good. Also works with Grand Design. Also works with the last Mechana construct, which is Watchman's Altar. It's a 5-cost card. Just once per turn, you may gain 1, but it can only be used for Mechanic Constructs. So it's Grand Design's little brother. It's a 5-cost card that deals 1 for Mechanic Constructs. Grand Design's a 6-cost card that gives you 2. So Hedron Link Device combos with every other Mechana Construct card, even Burial Mart. If I make everything Mechana, Burial Mart's in play. I play Snapdragon, boom, I get to draw a card. So it has combo potential with other Mechanas. But by itself, still in the 7-cost realm, if we looked at other cards at 7 costs, unless it is late game, or unless we already have the perfect storm of Mechanas, this isn't that ideal. High ceiling, very, very low ceiling too, though. We talked about a card earlier. It's like its ceiling was very high in the best case scenario, and in the kind of worst case scenario, it's still kind of in the middle. This has a very high ceiling and a very low. I don't know if I know should say low ceiling but low floor, but like, the range is weird. So it can be a 5 out of 5, or it can be like a 1 out of 5. If you guys can't get some of 0, it can be a 1 out of 5. So we're gonna average that and we're gonna make it a 3. Nice and easy. Rocket Courier. To be able to get stuff and put it directly into play mitigates the normal thing of buying a construct in the turn that you play it, that you basically had a 4-card hand, because more than likely this construct didn't have like an immediate effect. If you play Watchman's Altar and there's no Mechanas on the field, or there's a Mechana on the field but you still can't buy it, you basically had a 4-card hand. You had a card that didn't benefit what you could do. Rocket Courier, kind of less reluctant to give it a 3. Like, it really needs help, because more likely the card you get isn't even necessarily that good, what you're bringing into play. But it does bring something into play. But in the same vein, if you had 4, and there's a lot of 4s, there's a lot of good cheaper cards, some 3s, some 4s, some 5s, and you would take above this. But Courier kind of helps with the strategy, with the Mechana strategy overall. So just because it's like that strategy itself is very viable in the set, Mechanas. Because I don't think Mechanas is viable in every set. There's one set in particular I think is quite bad in. And, you can take a guess at which one I think that is. It's only really one that I think is just atrocious in. But Courier, we're also going to give it a 3. And Watchman's Altar, we're going to give that a 4, because it helps you buy cards that give you a lot of points. And it helps you buy cards that better its own strategy of being Mechana. Grand Design, I can't think of what we gave Grand Design. I think we probably gave it a 4, because it's a 6-cost card. And it's weird that this also gets a 4 because it's a 5-cost card. But that threshold of which you're able to purchase, no, that one lower cost that you need is a very, very big difference, especially when you can buy something based off the cards you already own, instead of having to have made an additional purchase of Mystic or something else down the line in order to buy it, which you're probably going to do anyway, but still that potential makes a big difference. That one, holds a lot of weight. So it's still going to be a 4 out of 5. All right, so we're coming in the home stretch to the absolute best opening card you can get in this set. Arbiter of the Precipice. 4-cost card. Void hero. First void. Draw 2 cards. Then banish a card in your hand. So what makes this so good? I mean, really, like, what makes it so good? Because it draws 2 cards. So you would think it's like an aesthetic, but then you got to get rid of one. That sucks, right? So you still have a 5-card hand, because you have a 5-card hand with Arbiter in it. You play it, you go up to 6, and then you got to get rid of one. But those cards that you started the game off with, those apprentices, and especially those militias. If you don't have one of these constructs that kind of, give you one attacks to make these militias a little bit more useful, or you're going on an attacking strategy, militia sucks. Guess how we get rid of it? It's a really good way to get rid of it is with the Arbiter of the Precipice. Even its value isn't good. It's a 4-cost card, and it gives you 1 at the end of the game. So it actually is worse than just buying 2 heavies in terms of points that you can get. So late game card, complete shit, terrible. But early game, mid game, early game, this is second to none. If you have 4 and this is available, you buy it. If you have 5 and every other 5-cost card that we talked about, the Ascetic of the Litless Eye, the Snapdragon, the Watchman's Altar, doesn't matter. Arbiter of the Precipice, you buy this ASAP. 5 out of 5, gold 5 out of 5, shimmering, shiny Zapdos 5 out of 5. Like it doesn't get any better than this. You see it, you buy. Early and mid game, no buy late game. It kind of sucks if it's late game. Next card, Demon Slayer, 4-cost card, gain 3 attack. So it of itself, very solid card. This is almost an Aura Templar. How's it almost an Aura Templar when it gives you 3? It gives you 3 attack. But Aura Templar kills something that's 4 or less. Well, you got those 2 militias that started in the deck, which hopefully you don't if you got that card. But if you do, the Demon Slayer can pair with that. So now you can kill things that's a 4. There are several cards. There's the Samuel's Trickster. There's the Mephite. And there's Tormented Soul. So just by itself, it can kill almost double digit, maybe a little bit more than double digit monsters just by itself. And with more attack that you have in the deck, you have the potential to kill the 5s, which Templar can't, kill the 6s, and to kill the Avatar. So it gives you a lot of attack. It's a very good attack card that's appropriately priced. So appropriately priced that it's actually like a 4.5. It's a very, very high card. Now, would you buy this card if you have Aura Templar already? Nah. That's some of the reasons why a lot of these attack cards aren't going to get the praise necessarily. Because if they come after, like if you have Aura Templar, you have Azaya, you're a little disincentivized to go with an attacking strategy because you have something that's kind of good enough in most situations, especially if you get a card like Seer of the Fort Path, where you can banish the bigger guys and kill the smaller guys. It's like mission accomplished. You can go with another strategy. You can get Lifebound. You can go Machina, but you don't have to worry about the attack coming back to bite you. Demon Slayer is a very nice start to any attacking strategy, or good enough in and of itself to be a light cleanup pseudo Templar effect. So let's go get a 4. Let's go get a 4 out of 5. It's a good card. It's a very, very good card. And then the big brother, as you can see to the right, Emery, 1 with the Void, 6-cost card, gives you 4 attack. Now, It's well, I don't know. I was going to say this may be the one that a lot of people disagree with, but this is going to get a 3. It gives you 4 attack though. Yeah, it do. It's the 6 cost card, which kind of hurts it. I already talked about the 6 cost cards, but it gives you 4 attack. I mean, that's good. That's good. Now, if you were looking at between Emery, which there's a one of, there's only one in the deck, or Ozaya, there's a one of. Which one you get? It's a very good chance you probably get Ozaya. Now, that's of course if both are available, which in most cases it won't be. Emery's a little bit better when there isn't any other monsters on the board because Ozaya will kill the cultist once, Emery will kill the cultist twice, so kind of has a bit of a leg up in that regard. But it's 4 attack versus 3 attack that you can get for 4 rune. Emery is a very appropriately cost fair effect. We talked about fair effect before when we were looking at Land Talker. 6 for 3. Rune is at a bit of a premium. Rune is a little bit harder to come by. So 6 for 3 in Rune is equivalent to 6 for 4 in attack. We gave Land Talker a 3. This guy, it's no different. He also gets a 3. 3 isn't a bad card. 3 is decent. Not bad. Shade of the Black Watch costs 3. And it says gain 2 attack. You may banish a card in your hand or discard pile. Now, we've only really touched on one card that banishes so far, and that is Arbiter Precipice. Arbiter Precipice needs you to have this card in your hand, but Shade can do hand or discard pile. Do you want to banish from your hand? More than likely not. Do you want to banish from your discard pile? Absolutely. That's the best place to discard from. I mean, obviously, you're not taking away from that hand potential. You don't want to -1 yourself when that apprentice or militia could have actually did something that turn just to get rid of it. But those lowly ones that's in the discard pile from last turn, axe them. Just get rid of it. Now, 3 for 2 attack. In regards, worse than the heavy. True. But the banish effect, banish is a very snowball mechanic. Because if you banish one card on turn 3, turn 4 at the beginning of the game, which is normally the earliest you can banish something. Because you're buying stuff on 1 and 2 and you aren't seeing it till 3 or 4. That means the next time you shuffle, deck's 1 card lighter. Next time you shuffle again, 2 cards lighter, 3 cards lighter, 4 cards lighter. You're getting a leaner deck and you're getting rid of cards that don't give you anything at the end of the game and cards that in the mid and late game you don't want to see anyway. You don't want to see Apprentice in the middle late game. More likely you don't want to see Militia in middle late game. So it's a snowball effect. Banishing is fantastic. The fact that it can do the discard pile is also fantastic. It being 2 attack. If it was 1 room, that's coming. But just 2 attack to be able to banish a card, it is a solid 4 out of 5. Banishing as a mechanic is fantastic. The attack is okay. You know what? No, I'm actually going to give it a 3. I'm full of shit. I'm actually going to give it a 3. Because the mid game as in you see this probably twice. So typically when I say early game you're going to see this card 4 to 5 times once you put it in your deck. Mid game you're going to see it 2, maybe 3. Probably more along like 2 or 3. And late game you either won't see it or you may see it once. It's just based off you shuffling. So like you purchase the card, you shuffle, and you wait to see it. Early game Shade is through the roof, but then it kind of goes like this. So like Shade early game, Shade mid game, Shade late game. Like don't even look at it late game. So we're gonna average it out. We're actually gonna put it at a 3. Yeah, we're gonna put it at a 3. Reason Arbiter still gets a 5 is because even though mid game you maybe not be banishing as many cards, you're still seeing more of your deck. You're still seeing 2 additional cards. You still have 5 cards at the end of it. You're seeing more of these better cards that you've gotten, and you're banishing on top of it. So it's a little bit different. Normally you want to see more cards and to just have something that gets you to attack. If you wanted to attack, you could have bought a heavy. If that's strictly what you're looking for is to attack. So the banish we want early game, but mid and late game kind of hurt a little bit. So while appropriately placed at 3.5, we're just going to put it at a 3 instead. Spike Vixen, the attacking equivalent of Wolf Shaman. It's 2 to buy. It gives you 1 attack, and you may draw a card. Wolf Shaman is... I don't know if we gave Wolf Shaman a 5, but it was... I mean, early game is a 5. Early game, this is a 4. No, early game, this is probably also like a 5. Because you're cycling, you're getting 1 attack. You may be pairing it with that 1 militia that sucks. Making that a little bit more useful. But is it helping you buy something else? Not really. Is it helping you attack something else? Possibly. Rune is better than attack. Not always, but in most cases, if it was a card that can either buy you more rune or make, buying things more accessible versus attacking monsters to make something more accessible. Just because most of your deck is already buy, you kind of want the thing that's buy. It's not a lot that gives you attack already, just the 2 militia. But it does replace itself. So Spike Vixen is a solid early game card. There's a lot of 2s that you would pick above it, but it's still solid. Mid game, it's okay. Late game is actually a little bit better than Shade, just because... What do you think is better in the late game? 2 attack or 1 attack, draw a card. The cards you're drawing have a stronger potential of being the better cards that you've purchased throughout the game. It's more than likely, it's less likely going to be like a militia or apprentice. It's going to be, maybe a heavy or maybe a mystic. Or, just better cards in general. It could be a Flytrap Witch, could be a Sedeca of the Litless Eye. It could be these kind of cards, even if it's like a heavy. 2 attack versus game 1 attack, draw, heavy, play it, 2 attack. So still kind of has high potential in that regard. This is also appropriately placed 3.5, but it is a 3. I looked up, but I forgot I'm looking at the screen, so I should say it's a 3, and not that it's a 3. All right, next card. We're almost finished. Let's see what we got. Okay, we got 4 more cards. Whew. Okay. Void Initiate, 1 cost card. Gain 1 rune. You may banish a card in your hand or discard pile. This card gets a 4 out of 5. It's cheap. Plus, it gives you a rune. Another plus, early game. Fantastic. That cheapness, spending 1 to get 1 rune, that's decent in the late game. Now, I know we ragged on Mechana Initiate, but, the early game potential, this is really high. I mean, early game potential, this is like a 4.5 early game. Mid game, it kind of sucks. Late game, it has point value. So it's a solid 4. It's a good banish card. It's a cheap banish card. It's the cheapest banish card. And it doesn't set you into a particular kind of strategy. Now, you can say Shade doesn't necessarily set me into a particular kind of strategy either. It doesn't, But of the strategies that you have, like I mean, there's an attacking strategy. There's mechanist. You can card draw. You can life bound. Like there's a few different routes you can go, and there's a lot of subsets to that kind of stuff too. But typically this puts you into attack, while that doesn't necessarily put you into anything, and it's cheap enough where maybe you can use some leftover room. Like there's some pretty good 2-cost cards. Maybe that can go into Spike Vixen. Maybe that can go into Temple Guardian. I would say it's a 4 out of 5. All right, Muramasa, 7-cost card. Void Constructs. Once per turn, gain 3 attack. Ooh. If you got 7 early game and it was between this and Master Darther, that's tough. If it's between this and Cetra, that's tough. This and Hedron Link Device? Ha! Nah. Not Hedron Link Device, but Muramasa, that 3 attack every single turn. Very, very good card. Now, what hurts it? It's a 7-cost card. It's not the easiest thing to get. Could you buy a turn 3? Possibly. If you win Mystic turn 1, Mystic turn 2, or the equivalent thereof, yeah, you can get 7 and have it really nice early game. But it's still a 7. And 7s don't get 5s. They don't. The cost is a little high. But it does get a 4. It's a solid 4 out of 5. Very, very nice pickup. If you can get this in the mid game, by all means, if someone picked it over Darther, etc., I completely understand. This is going to be out on the field for 7, 8, 9 turns. Even if it's just hitting a cultist, hit the cultist and say the average of 8 times. That's 8 honor, gets you 4 points at the end of the game. 12. You bind a card that says it will give you 12 honor. Fantastic. Good stuff. But it has the higher potential for that too. If you have the malicious that's floating around, now you can hit 4 attack. So rather that's 2 cultists, or that's a mistake of creation, corrosive widow, or any other attack, now you have the potential to hit the really, really good stuff. The earth tyrants, the fire tyrants, the avatars. Makes all that easier because you not have to worry about drawing it. It's just in play. Very, very good card. Best construct in the set by default, because mechanists need help. Yeah, solid 4 out of 5. Ooh, Shadow Star, 3-cost card. Once per turn, gain 1 attack. Now, gaining 1 attack is so good. So good. Oh, that card is a 4. Card's a 4 out of 5. Card may be a 5 out of 5. Well, let's reconsider this. Could be a 5 out of 5. So early game, fantastic. Makes those malicious put in work. Makes the little stray heavies a little attack that normally wouldn't be as ideal. Makes them a little bit better now. The mid-game shade could be, now it's a 3 attack killer. It's not something that's just alone by itself. Very nice potential. It's cheap. It's a good price. It's 3 for 2 at the end of the game. Late game, decent pickup. Mid game, okay pickup. Early game, solid pickup. But not quite a 5. Not a quite, drop everything, you must get this card. It's good. It's very good. 4 out of 5. And the very last card, Mr. Void Thirsty, 5-cost card. Once per turn, gain 1 attack. First time you defeat a monster in the center row, each turn you can gain 1 honor. Now, how often does that second effect come into play? Say on average, probably 3 times a game. Probably 3 times. If you have this card, you're already going to be more likely to go on the offensive. It's good value because it's 5 for 3, so it's going to give you more on average than if you bought heavies, at least for end of game purposes. The one attack is good for the militias and that kind of thing. It's a solid 4 out of 5. Why isn't it a 5 out of 5? Well, the Shadow Star basically has the majority of that effect at a 2 cost reduction. Now, the honor that you get, does that make up for it? It depends. In a lot of cases, it does not, because of what you could spend the other 2 on that turn. Or I bought that during a turn where I didn't have a lot I could spend on it. So let's say I had 3 or 4. And maybe when this is on the field, there's Arbiter of the Precipice. There's, maybe Snapdragon. There's, there may be better cards out for 5. When you hit 5, you kind of hit this higher threshold. So Shadow Star is a 4 out of 5. Void Thirster is more of a 3.5 than I'm rounding up to a 4. So it's a good card though. 4s are good. 3s are decent. 5s are phenomenal. 1s are Mechana Initiate. And 2s are meh. I don't know if I think I gave someone 2. So, all right. So that's basically all the cards that you can buy in the OG set of Chronicles of the Godslayer. So real quick, I'm just going to pick out what I think are the 3 worst cards in the set. And we already know Mechana Initiate is going to be in there. And then, we got to think about it. Druid of the Stone Circle. So that's 2. So Mechana Initiate, Druid of the Stone Circle. Now I really have to think about that last one. That last one is tough. Think if I had to go with one. It's either Lifebound Initiate or Rocket Courier. And I'm going to go Lifebound Initiate. So, Lifebound Initiate, Mechana Initiate, Druid of the Stone Circle are the 3 worst cards in the set. Does it mean if they're the worst cards in the set that you shouldn't buy them? No, not necessarily. If you get 2 Lifebound Initiates at the start of the game, that's a lot of value. That's very good. If you got Druid of the Stone Circle while you have that card in play, very good. I basically can say, okay, what do I need? I need attack. I need buy. Okay, let's put it to the top. Let's draw it right away. But when does this guy come into play? Very good question. I'll let you think about that. And you can put it in the comments. When does this guy come into play? And that will be it for this video. Thanks for sticking through to the end, putting up with my rambling. I promise that every week, I won't commit to a certain day, but every week, I'm going to try to put up another video and try to see if we can capture some of these moments that I would like to capture on film and not just kind of have it happen. I want to have the physical game and stack the deck and be like, oh yeah, what if you attack this? You see what happened? Need it to be organic, happen in real life. So that should do the trick. And I will catch you all on